Welcome to this episode of Author Success Show. The special guest we have today is Dr. Tamara Stephens, who is the author of the book, Well, of course. Dr. Tamara is a wife, boy mom of three, and a grandmother. She is also an assistant professor of nursing at a large university, an author, and a speaker. Other than spending time with family, she absolutely loves working in service to others. She's done medical missionary work in Haiti, is a Meals on Wheels volunteer, and collects and distributes items for Atlanta's unhoused population. Tamira often describes her life journey as eventful, filled with the extremes of tribulations and failures, but also the greatest joys and successes. Along her journey, she's learned to appreciate all of life's experiences. At some point in her life, she began to recognize and understand that even the most challenging and difficult events were necessary part of her personal evolution. Her mission now is to help others learn to be prudent students of this earth school in which we are all enrolled. She's helping people to become curious, patient, accepting, and appreciative of every life experience and ultimately to live their purpose. Hey Tamara, welcome to Author Success Show.
Thank you for having me here. I'm excited.
I think this is the second time I'm seeing you face to face. The first time was when we initially got started with your book project, which was roughly a year ago. So, how has the last
Absolutely.
1 year been?
It has been scary and exciting and everything in between. Everything in between, but
Sure.
mostly exciting, but definitely scary as well.
How was it when you held the book for the very first time in your hands?
Oh my goodness. So the very first one I had was the author's copy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it had a little strip across it. And, I didn't know how I was going to feel about that. I just thought, okay, I'm going to get an author's copy so I can do my final check and make sure it was, everything was good. But even holding that copy was just like, this is a real thing.
Right.
It was so exciting. And then when I got the first shipment in, that
Mhm.
whole experience was just on another level as well. It
Right.
was it was probably one of the highlights of my life, definitely. Writing and publishing a book has been a lifetime dream of mine, and
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, it got scary because it was finally to the point where other people are actually going to read this thing.
Yeah.
And so I had some reservations, but your team just kept
Mhm.
pushing me along and holding me to deadlines that I was supposed to have. And so when it finally happened, it was just an unbelievable feeling to have your work in manifested, in a hard copy, not a hard
Yeah.
copy, it was a paper copy, but just having that document in your hand or the manuscript in
Yeah.
your hand. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, when did it all begin, Tamira? Like you said, it has been a lifelong dream. So, do you remember clearly when was the first time you felt that you should be writing a book?
A teenager.
Wow.
And I'm far from a teenager now, but I've always had a desire to write. And over the years I have written so many things. I have piles of projects that I started and never finished. And for a lot of different reasons, just
Mm-hmm.
life in and of itself. But when I finally decided that, I didn't even know my genre. So I have some nonfiction written and fiction written and stories and all kinds of things that I've just, again, projects that I've started. But I got to a point in life where the genre of self-help really was just standing out to me, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do something in that direction. So about 2014 is when I said, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to start a project and start it and finish it and see it through. So 2014 is when I started this particular project.
Is that when you also started journaling regularly?
No, I have been journaling regularly since I was a teenager, probably even
Uh-huh.
preteen. Journaling
Wow.
is a just a whole part of my life, my therapeutic
Hmm.
process. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think writing has always been a part of your life, but there's
It
a lot of
has.
difference between journaling for your own wellness versus putting out your thoughts in the form of a book for others to read. So,
Right.
what do you think is the main difference, and why most people, in your opinion, do not go ahead and publish their thoughts in the form of a book?
For me, journaling is my real journaling. The one that I do for myself is very, very personal and all over the place. Somebody would probably think I was losing my mind if they read
Mhm.
my journals, right? Because there's no format to how I write. There's no, sometimes I sit down to journal and I have no idea what I'm gonna write.
Mhm.
So that's a lot different than writing a document that is meant for others to read and to understand, right? To
Yeah.
have a beginning and an end. So that that can be a challenge to people. I think, just the idea of how do I articulate myself in a way that makes sense and is interesting to somebody else.
Hmm.
So taking that first step, it can be scary, and can feel like a daunting experience. But once I started and had a flow of how I wanted my book to read, it became easy. And I used pictures. I'm a very, very visual person. So my
Yeah.
very first manuscript had pictures almost on every page. I couldn't do that when it came down to publishing. I had to take a lot of that out. But those pictures inspired me. So I just think for somebody that's on that journey, they want to do it, find something that inspires. I think it's important to find something that inspires you. Those pictures, I would find a picture that captured the essence of that chapter, and I would have that picture right there in front of me as I was writing, and it really offered a lot of grounding, grounding
Right.
for me. So, and then even environment, I write in this book about the fact that I'm a beach person. I feel most connected to the higher being when I'm at the beach, just
Mhm.
surrounded. And I found along my journey, not particularly with this book, but along my journey in life, that I am most creative when I'm in that environment. And so a lot of my writing took place on a beach, on vacation.
Mhm.
So I would go on vacation, and while my family was kind of doing their thing, I would sit and write, and I could write for hours that seem like minutes when I'm at the beach. So, finding what inspires you. Where do you feel most creative? Where do the words flow most
Mm.
easily for you? And I
Right.
think that helps getting the document done. And it's a rough draft because there's going to be many edits,
Yeah.
many, many edits along the way.
Yeah.
So also realizing and understanding that in the beginning you may feel alone because you're just writing,
Mhm.
but along the way, a team like yours is going to help you craft those words into making sure they make sense to somebody
Mhm.
else. So you're not alone in the process. So that was just really helpful for me as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
You just shared some fantastic tips, Tamira. Firstly, having that one picture or image to inspire you for every chapter and ground you, that is so powerful. Is it the same image that you have in the book as well, in the beginning of every chapter?
Some of them are the same. So I had to take pictures out and it broke my heart, but I understood the process. But some of the pictures are the same and some of them I needed to change. It still captured the essence of that thought, but
Mm-hmm.
I did have to change some of the images to fit the format of the book.
Right.
Yeah.
And also talking about the environment, recently I started reading a lot about human design. That subject just intrigued me. So that's basically
Mhm.
a science where, based on your time of birth, place of birth, a chart is prepared, which basically
Oh,
reflects your personality and what are the best things you need to do in alignment with your personality so that your life can be in the state
oh,
of flow and you don't have to struggle too much
yes.
to achieve your bigger purpose. So one of the key readings in human design is the environment. So everybody thrives in a different type of environment. So I'm curious to know,
Yes.
maybe as per your human design, it could be beach, because beach is one of the categories in environment. Like some
Yeah.
people thrive in a cave, some people thrive in a mountain, some people thrive
Yeah.
in beaches. So it's nice to understand what connects with you and do all
It's
your
it's
creative work there.
It's absolutely true. And I have one of the sections of my book, I just talk about that. Find your area. It
Mhm.
made such a big difference. And that realization didn't occur to me again. It was probably even before I started writing this book, but I was working on a work project and I could not get it done. I just could
Mhm.
not get it done. And I was getting more and more anxious in my regular environment because I needed to get it done. And I wanted to get it done before I went on vacation, but it didn't happen. So I had to take this work on vacation with me. And on vacation is where it just literally flowed. And
Mhm.
it was like, whoa. And
Mhm.
so it was the first time I realized that this is my place. I always knew it was my place, but I had not been placed in a position to have to work. You know,
Right.
whenever I go on vacation, I'm on vacation. But when I took that report there to the beach, it was just like, oh, this is where I need to be. Yeah, yeah. So I
Sure.
whatever that human design says about I don't know if it's birthday or time of birth, mine is the beach. I can tell you that. I totally
Sure.
know that that's the truth. Yeah.
Wonderful. So you could actually write about so many things because of the richness of experiences you've had over the years. Was it difficult for you to narrow down on the topic of the book and choose the subtopics as chapters?
Mm, I actually didn't find that difficult. I think innately, whether you want to call it a calling or whatever, I just knew what I had to write. Now, sometimes it was difficult. What I did in this book was I talked about experiences and what I learned from those experiences. And sometimes it's that thought is easy to have in your head, but a little more challenging to articulate in words. So
Mhm.
I did have some challenges with that, but once I started and once I knew what the flow was, it got easier. Now, that doesn't mean I did it in a good amount of time. It still took me a long time because sometimes I would walk away from it and not see it again for 6 months.
Mhm.
So, and I didn't have anybody to push me along the way and say, hey, get this done, get this done. So that would have been helpful had I found a team like yours, even in the
Yeah.
in the stages of writing. By the time I reached out to you, the document was pretty complete.
Yeah.
I had some fine tuning to do, of course, and editing, but had I had you in 2014, it might have not been 2018 when I finally finished it. Yeah.
Right, right. Now, of course, we work with authors at different stages in their writing journey. Some people come to us right at the beginning where we do the coaching work with them and things like that to hold them accountable to finish it. But most people come to us like you, Tamara, around the time when they're about to finish the manuscript. So
Okay.
I'm just
Okay.
glad that we, got the opportunity to work on the book. So
Yeah.
the other thing I wanted to ask is the title of the book. Many authors start thinking about the title only after they finish their manuscript. Whereas in your book, I found that the title, well, of course, runs throughout the book. So, did you decide the title while writing the manuscript?
I can't remember, but it was very early on.
Mhm.
And the whole concept was nothing in the book is new. It's not like any kind of revelations, revelations. It's things that once you read it and you think about it, you're like, of course, and that also inspired me along the way. Like what what ideas do people probably really know innately, but maybe need some guidance to get back to that understanding or that knowing.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know where it inspired me, but that's It was probably from the beginning. It was early on for sure.
Right. Great. So, did you keep any target reader in mind while writing the book? Of course, a lot of different types of people can benefit from your book, but did you
Mhm.
focus on one particular type of reader while writing the book?
You know what I thought about? Um, Maybe not a target audience as it relates to gender or age or,
Not based on
anything like
demographic.
that.
Hmm.
Not based on demographics, but somebody o- looking to go down new and looking to go down a more spiritual path and understand their lives from a different point of view and understand how life is impacting them or influencing them. um i am I have been practicing, not, I shouldn't say practicing, but I have followed spiritual leaders for many years. So Michael Beckwith, I'm not sure if you're familiar with who Michael Beckwith is. He's a spiritual leader out of California, and I really
Mhm.
enjoy listening to him. But ho- I know that if I was brand new in the things that he talked about, that I wouldn't understand what he was saying,
Um,
if that makes sense. So because I came and I started to kind of follow him when I was further along in that journey, I did understand him. But I did know if I was brand new, I don't think I would quite understand what he meant, what he
mhm.
was, what understand the whole concept. So this book was for someone who wants to understand their lives from a spiritual point of view, not so much religious, and get to have a deeper connection with their own life experience and their own journey, and to keep it simple, so
Hmm.
they get like a just a basic idea of how you even begin that process. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm making sense,
No,
but
absolutely. Somebody who's who's taking their first steps in the whole world of spirituality. They want to understand their
right,
lives better, and they have not been
right,
in this path for decades. They are just new and
right.
they are curious to learn.
Yes, yes. I
Mm.
just wanted a something where it's just a soft entry into that realm of thinking.
Mm,
Yeah.
got it. So, is that why you've not particularly made it a religious book?
Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Sure, got it.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you was uh, the central theme that I could see throughout your book is that of gratitude. From every life experience, you teach people how to learn from it and be grateful for whatever happens. So what I
Right.
have realized is when your life is going great or even normal, it's easy to feel grateful for everything around you, right? But when you are facing through tough life situations, how does one feel grateful even during those times?
Yeah. You know, so yes, gratitude is throughout the book. There's actually a whole chapter on gratitude, but throughout the book, I'm kind of trying to get people to appreciate everything, right?
Mm,
And I think when we look at life in the way that we're in school, I talk about Earth School, and this is all about learning. When you look at every experience as, there's something I should learn from this. There's something I should learn from it now while it's not such a catastrophic event. Maybe if I get the lesson on with smaller lessons, or I understand what I'm to learn with smaller lessons, then those big catastrophic events are a little less, right?
mhm,
And so that was kind of my goal, just to help people to realize that everything we're all headed somewhere.
yeah,
We're all headed on a path. That path can't just be easy. We
mhm,
would love it. We think we would love it to be just easy, but you have to have those challenges, because from our challenges, from our greatest challenges in life, I think we learn the greatest lessons. Not only the lesson in and of itself, but we learn so much about ourselves and our endurance and ability to persevere and take a challenge and turn it into, the ultimate outcome is great. I've been through a lot of things in my life, and at the time, if you would have asked me to be grateful in that moment, mm, I wouldn't have understood that. But
Mm,
now that I'm able to look back at some of those events, I understand how it contributed to where I am today. And so you have to, it's hard in the moment when you're being challenged, especially with something really significant. But I just think everything that I've gone through in my life, things that made me feel like it was over, it was the end, have really contributed to who and where I am today. And so now when I have big challenges and things that feel like they're just breaking me down, I'm able to look towards the future. Like somewhere down the line, I'm gonna understand this.
mm,
And obviously it depends on what you're talking about. When you're talking about losing somebody or death, even those there are people who have had
mm.
um, who've turned those situations into greatness. But
Yep.
in the moment, I wouldn't ask anybody, just be grateful for this, just only in that moment, I would say, understand that somewhere down the line, you'll understand it a little bit better.
Yeah. Just having that
Mhm.
understanding itself could make that situation better.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the sooner we learn from a small problem, we are actually avoiding a bigger catastrophe from happening.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I talk in the book about a personality issue that I was dealing with, and my response to a colleague and how another colleague kind of helped me acknowledge my response. Had I not had that exchange, I could have let that personality grow
Mm,
instead of, but somebody kind of checked me on how I was behaving or acting, and it made me look at myself a little bit more and take a little bit more control of that side of me so that it didn't grow into something that, catastrophic, losing a job
yeah.
or being reprimanded or whatever the case may be, something that I know would have hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
So just small things, small things that if you're able to look and learn from the little lessons. My colleague was just like, your passion doesn't have to look like anger.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, that's a good point. And so, I worked on not allowing my passion to look like anger. Just because I'm passionate about something doesn't mean I have to come off as
Yeah.
angry. I'm just passionate about it, and it's okay to be passionate, but it's not okay to look like I'm angry,
Yeah. The
if that
passion
makes
should
sense.
come from a space of love rather than anger.
Ex- Exactly, exactly. But that's
Yeah.
the lesson I had to learn because I was like, I'm
Yeah.
just passionate about this. And
Right.
and she was like, yeah, but that's not how it should look. And I got it. I got it.
Right. Got it. So I also was curious to know some of the habits that you recommend to people to so that they start living life the way you recommend them to live.
One of the thing again, I just said this a minute ago, I'm a huge journal person. I journal,
Mhm.
and that's not always easy for people. Everybody doesn't like putting things down on paper like I have. But for me, journaling was a big part of me getting to this space,
Mhm.
just kind of writing things down and going back and seeing what my thoughts were and how I felt about a thing, because how you feel is oftentimes will guide how you act and respond, right? So journaling was a good thing, but I guess my answer to your question is figuring out what kind of self-reflection activity
Mm.
works for you, whether
Right.
it's journaling, whether it's even if you don't have to write your journals, you can speak your journals into a phone, but
Mm.
having some way that you're engaged in self reflection. I think many people don't do engage in self reflection enough to really realize, how am I responding to the world around me?
Mm.
And if you don't allow yourself some kind of activity, whatever that activity, whether it's journaling, whether it's talking, whether it's just sitting in meditation,
Yeah.
sometimes sitting outside and just literally just thinking about it.
Mm.
But self-reflection is big. I think it's a very important part of moving towards your potential and your greatest good.
Yeah, and I think the more the people, if the people start self-reflecting upon their lives more, there could be many more authors in this world. Because without the
Yeah.
whole act of self-reflection, we would constantly be distracted by something just so that we can avoid reflecting upon what happens in our life. And some people take it to the
Yes.
extremes of getting into addictions and things like that because they don't want to
Yes.
self-reflect.
Right. Absolutely. I completely agree with that statement.
Mm.
If you don't allow yourself time away from all of the input that we constantly have, social media, TV, radio, celebrity gossip, whatever it
Mhm.
is, we all of that, those are all distractions from self.
Yeah,
As long as I can make my mind focus on something outside of me, I don't have to make my mind think about what's going on inside.
right.
And, that I think people will eventually get to their potential. That's my hope. I don't know if that's wearing rose colored glasses, but I think people will eventually get there. But I think there's a less chaotic way to get there if you
Mm.
engage in self-reflection and you're really dedicated to self-development. I think there's a easier path to reach your potential.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I wanted to ask you, Tamira, is you are a professor of nursing. So that
Hmm.
would take up like a huge chunk of your time, and that's your profession. However, you've decided that you don't have to be unidimensional. You can do multiple things in life. You do so many other things, like you've authored this book, you are also into coaching and speaking, and you're a philanthropist as well. So, what would be your message to all those people out there who think that, oh my God, right now is not the time for me to write a book. I know there are many things I want to share, but I'm a full time mom or I'm a full time doctor or whatever. So that
Hmm.
prevents people from exploring the other dimensions of their personality. What would be your message to
Right.
them?
I think it goes back to self-reflection and self-development. When I am, and I will tell you, being a professor of nursing is extremely time consuming between August and May.
Mm-hmm.
I have over 100 students that are pulling at me literally 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't say literally, but just about 24 hours a day. But it's very important for me to have time dedicated to my own personal development. And writing again has always been a big part of my life. So I made time for it. I have to make time for myself and, exploring the other aspects of me. I'm so much more than just a professor, right? But if I don't consciously dedicate time to those other aspects of my life, I wouldn't do it. I had to make a conscious decision
Yeah.
that there are different things that I want to explore and engage in, because if I limit it only to my profession, then I'm not going to, it's going to be more difficult for me to reach my fullest potential.
Mm.
Because it's just a small part of who I am. So I think dedicated time, whether it's a little bit of time, you have to also figure out, and goes back to self-reflection. Are you better in the morning, in the evening, on the
Mm.
weekends? I'm a night person. Most of my writing I did at night. Lots of it
Mm.
I did at night. And I had to understand that about myself,
Yeah.
that I work better at night. There's so much literature out there that says you should, to be successful, you should wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's never going to
Not
work for me.
not true for everybody. Yeah.
No, definitely not going to work for me. So, because I know I'm a night person, I turn off work at a certain time. I'm still getting emails and texts, but I turn off work at a certain time to kind of dedicate myself to other areas of my life. And I think
Mhm.
people have to decide, do I wake up early or do I stay up late? Or, are the weekends better for me? Whatever it is, but having dedicated time for exploring those other areas. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you gave yourself the permission to explore all these different facets so that, now your readers are benefiting from the book and all the other
Mm.
work that you do. So where can people
Mhm.
find out more about you, Tamara?
I have an Instagram handle. It's Dr. Tamara _Stephens. So I do a lot of posting on there. I also have a website that's on maintenance mode, but and not as of tomorrow because I'm trying to edit some things on there.
Mhm.
But my website is enhancedlifeexperience.com.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to have the links to your website, to your Instagram, as
Okay.
well as your book in the show notes. So guys who
Okay.
are watching or listening to us, please go ahead and check out Tamira's amazing book and all the cool stuff that she does on Instagram. Thank you, Tamira, for being on Author Success Show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and I'm so happy to see you again.
Same here.